On this week's episode, the box office is Wakanda Forever. We share some blockbuster memories, and Netflix gears up for Gears of War. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos.
Welcome to the pop culture cosmos.
And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all the great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Humanican Media, of course, everything going on at the Happy Hoarder. Go ahead and follow the Happy Hoarder today on Facebook to get the latest updates on when the Happy Hoarder goes live, because the Happy Hoarder's got some great deals for you to go ahead and pick up this holiday season. Plus, also as well, the famous book, Congratulations, You Suck. Go ahead and pick it up today, right there for you at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And if you can do all that, plus also the fact that we're the #1 tabletop RPG streamer on Facebook, there's a absolute ton of hours available to you for watching pleasure right there for you in the tabletop RPG land right there on Facebook. Plus also as well, we are the best place to go for the latest news and trends in pop culture right there on Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. So like that page to get the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every day. And if you do, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. You can catch him here all the time at the Pop Culture Cosmos and, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. It is my good friend. It is TJ Johnson. TJ, great to have you here. Wanted to go ahead and start off the show by saying Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, $330 million at the box office. 180 of it is in the U.S. Truly a fantastic performance. Your thoughts on how Black Panther, Wakanda Forever did this weekend at the box office?
I appreciate you, Brother G. Brother G, I appreciate you for allowing me the opportunity to be on the show once again. While I have not had the pleasure of seeing it yet, I promised my wife that I would not go see it without her. As you know, as you mentioned, I'm in beautiful, beautiful Chicago, Illinois at the moment, visiting family. And my wife made it very clear. She said, when you go, don't have me find out that you went to go see Black Panther without me. I said, yes, my queen. I will not go see. I will not go see Black Panther without you. But from everything I'm hearing from all the box office success, it is encouraging. It is encouraging because, Gerald, I've made it very clear that I did not like the direction that they were going to go. I made it very clear that I thought they needed to recast T'Challa. I have said it many times, and I think I'm still going to die on that hill. I don't feel differently about that. What I can say is, from what I've heard, they've done his legacy justice, and they've done the franchise justice in how they're moving forward, in spite of losing Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa in the movies for moving forward. So I'm encouraged to hear that. I'm encouraged to see the numbers for the box office. I'm a firm believer that cinema, especially this kind of cinema, we talked about on a previous episode, where there are certain movies you want to see it, but you don't necessarily need to see it in the movie theater, right? I don't need to see a rom-com in the theater. I think I probably enjoy those more at home with my wife, right? Just sitting on our couch. But when you get to these big, bombastic, action-packed movies and experiences, those are designed. They're shot on IMAX cameras for a reason. Those are designed to be in theaters. So it's encouraging when you see the numbers that Black Panther is doing. 330 million globally launched. It's an incredible thing to see, and it's encouraging because it lets us know that And it lets the critics know, it lets the people know that if you build it, they will come. If you put forth a product that is as strong, visually striking, moving as this, they will come to the cinema. You just got to bring your A game. They have a much more sophisticated palette now, and they want what they want. They know what they want, and they're going to flock to what they want to see. So it's important for people to realize that, did Marvel change the way people look at movies? Maybe. Did COVID change the way people look at movies? Absolutely. So now when we go to the movie theater, we want to see a certain type of film. And if I can see that certain type of film and get the feeling that I get at home, then I'm going to stay at home and watch it instead of going to spend the 20, $30 to go for 2 tickets to a movie theater to go see a show. Why not stay at home?
Yeah. So they can want to use it as
Right.
they got to name it something else. I think so far with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, I think they now have something that can lead them into phase 5. Phase 4 has been all over the place as far as
Yes, it has.
successes, failures, introductions, and goodbyes. I think it's been all over the place, and not all of it's been successful by a long shot. But I think now that with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and the things that could lead and come out of it, I think that phase 5 is set up very well for the first time that I can say that in a long time.
I completely agree with you. And we've talked ad nauseum about how widely stretching this phase has been and how frustrating it's been because it's so widely stretched and you don't know what you're getting here and you're getting part of this here. It's been extremely frustrating. So I agree with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing Wakanda Forever because from everything I've been told, everything I understand, it is a definitive experience, and it is probably the definitive experience of this part of the multiverse saga. So I'm excited to see it. Can't wait to get home to my wife so we can go finally find some time to go look at it. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it.
Well, again, it is Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It is an absolutely huge hit around the world, $330 million. And that obviously means also as well that a Black Panther 3 will be sometime down the road as well.
Looking forward to it.
Great thoughts right there, my friend. And if you have thoughts on Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head to the break, and right after that, my good friends Adam Smith and Roger Hamilton from the Demolition Force, every Monday you can catch them right there at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. They're talking about Blockbuster Video, their memories, and also the latest comedic show on Netflix, the sitcom Blockbuster. Wanted to hear your thoughts on Yellowstone as it debuts a new season, Season 5, the mega hit with the last episode that was shown for Season 4. Over 9 million people watched it. So your thoughts on Season 5 of Yellowstone?
Well, I think the big thing about Yellowstone, and to answer your question, I've never seen an episode myself, but I'm familiar with a bit of the cast. Obviously, we're familiar with Kevin Costner. Huge fan of Kevin Costner from back in his Waterworld days, Robin Hood. Even though a lot of people didn't like Waterworld, I thought it was actually pretty good. But I digress. I have not personally watched this show. I've heard great things about it. And it's one of those things that it just never really looked like a show that I would get into. I was never really big into the Western type look, cowboy hats, and that's just never been my genre, which is funny because I'm a huge gamer. And being a gamer, I love Red Dead Redemption. So you think I'd kind of be more interested in it, but I'm really not. Saying that to say, for it to get as much acclaim as it does and for it to be as popular as it is, there's got to be something worthwhile to look at there. So it's piqued my interest. It hasn't piqued my interest to the point where I've started actually watching it, but it's a little bit more on my radar as of recently. So I think I actually might start once we kind of get through the holidays here, because obviously there are a lot of things going on that we're ramping up towards. Once we get through the holidays and we have some time to kind of just catch our breath and breathe a little bit. I think that might be a show we try to pick up on. I'll see if I can talk my wife into it. If not, I might just have to do it on my own.
Great to hear your thoughts on Yellowstone. If you have thoughts on Yellowstone out there, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com.
Hey, this is Chad from Ghost Toasters, and you're listening to Pop Culture Cosmos Podcast.
Mr. Witch and Mr. Light have an agreement with a group of hags who call themselves the Hourglass Coven. You see, they can come and go into the Witchlight Carnival as they please to steal from naughty patrons. But what happens when those patrons come back years later looking for those lost things? Find out as Wizards and Wine takes on the wild beyond the Witchlight. 2 tables playing through the same adventure. One table more thoughtful, kind, and bold in their actions. The other table more decisive, more adventurous, a little more prone to taking risks. The actions of each table influences the gameplay of the other. Find out how it all shakes out with Wizards and Wine, the wild beyond the Witchlight. You can catch the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, and you can catch the live stream on Mondays. Find us on YouTube and Facebook. We hope to see you at the carnival very soon.
You've heard others, but nothing could prepare you for the shameful stupidity that is the Jock and Nerd Podcast. Hear Imran.
So if you offend everyone at once, it's a wash. I've covered everybody.
Anthony.
Sorry, I was texting. Say that again.
And Rug Boy.
Yeah, whenever there's a snowstorm, my slack hole tightens up.
As they talk over one another.
Just exactly the same as
Terminator.
We're talking over each other. It's fine.
Sorry.
Swear and ask you for money.
Just give us the money.
Witness the hubris as they claim to be the world's authority on comic book movies.
Who said?
Never said that. You've never said that.
Who cares? A jock said that.
Comic book, TV, movie reviews, news, and whatever they choose. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Jock and Nerd Podcast.
It's campy, silly, goofy fun.
Seriously, people really listen to this.
Jock and Nerd.
And we're back with the show. It's Gerald Glasser coming right back at you here. I cannot believe I did not hit the go live button before. We had some good stuff that nobody will ever see, but we're going to have some more good stuff right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Gerald Glasser coming right back at you here. Thanks so much for watching and listening. It is Blockbuster. That's now available on Netflix. 10 episodes right there for you. It's their latest attempt at a sitcom to try and get the sitcom part of Netflix going, which they've not been actually having the greatest returns on. And I did say over the course of the past couple episodes, the Pop Culture Cosmos, PCC Multiverse, that I was not pleased with this outing, based loosely off, and I would say based very loosely off the final Blockbuster video store that's now in Oregon. This is based in Michigan, and just with Randall Park, the effort's there, but unfortunately the terrible writing and the fact that the sporting characters are really nothing to write home about. Unfortunately, even though this is done by the makers of Superstore and shot in a style similar and reminiscent of Superstore, that this is just not going to go ahead and be anywhere near like Superstore and the greatness that it is. Unfortunately, this is a very disappointing series for me, but how do actual Blockbuster store video managers that have experienced this on the front line feel about it? I've got 2 guys that have served their own stores for the Blockbuster video chain that are here right now. It is 2 guys that you should be familiar with every Monday at the Demolition Force. It is Adam Smith and, of course, DM Roger Hamilton, who also wreaks havoc each and every weekend out there on Melinda and Rob at the Vampires and Vitae. Guys, great to have you here for the second time around. I truly appreciate your patience and staying with me. Adam, I'm going to go again with you, start with you again. First, your thoughts on the series, and then we'll go into some memories that maybe could have provided some better outlooks on a better series for Netflix.
Sure. I could only make it through about 5 episodes of the show.
You're a brave man.
It's an actual chore to watch. I love Randall Park. I'm a big fan of his work. I just feel that the writing, goodness, even the supporting acting is just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
That part aside, I find it interesting. I think almost a trip down memory lane, seeing the familiar aspects, which I did enjoy. They really nailed what it feels like to be inside a Blockbuster, what it looked like, the wire racking, the DVDs, hearing movies being returned into the outside drop box and what that funk feels like, and you can hear it from across the store. Roger, I'm sure you can attest to that memory.
People
very
stocking the
well.
mailbox,
Absolutely.
folks hoping it will actually be the video that they want to go ahead and check out.
Oh, we'd usually have 4 or 5 customers that would sit right around and they'd be like, something fell, can you come check it? So it definitely brings back the nostalgia. I worked at Blockbuster. I managed 3 stores at the same time from 1999 till 2002. So I have a little bit of background with what it actually felt like to be in a Blockbuster and what it was like to deal with customers.
And you noted on the first time around that you would have liked to have seen not only something portrayed as far as some of your experiences as a store manager, but also I noted to you that you kind of liked as far as creating a scenario that Netflix should have looked at instead of just using this as I mentioned before in previous episodes, as Netflix's vanity plate that ha 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 we won the war. Instead of that, like this seems to be, put it more like, okay, instead of like not like a documentary or docuseries, like actually a drama of the rise and the fall of Blockbuster, either behind the scenes at corporate or actually probably on the front lines on an every day-to-day basis, where you could see it actually transform as far as from one opportunity to the next.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think that by placing it in modern society and modern times right now, a lot of things feel off about it. Sort of like being in a 50s burger joint or something along those lines, but having it take place, in 2022, something would feel a little bit off about it, where the nostalgia wouldn't quite hit for someone that lived through that time period. I think they really could have gone with something back from, 1999, when Y2K was a threat, when 9/11 wasn't a thing. The world felt very different back then, and I think maybe going with a period piece that sort of highlighted those aspects might be a little bit more intriguing to a younger audience that may remember it from their early childhood, or it may be something they never experienced but just predated them.
Absolutely. I equated it to the fall of the Roman Empire, where everything was great and grand and everybody was eating grapes, and all of a sudden mistakes were made because, like we're seeing now, if you've seen the series Star Wars Andor, where they're saying, well, the Empire is getting too big and too fat. Well, there was a time where admittedly Blockbuster was getting too big and too fat, and they started making mistakes, and obviously one of the biggest ones was not purchasing Netflix when Netflix was simply begging them to go ahead and purchase them. Roger, your thoughts on the series? And again, I've equated it to a vanity plate for Netflix. Just thought it was something that really wasn't thought out very well. I was hoping for better returns. And I know especially you in the chat that we have that goes on a daily basis. I think you were, of all 3 of us, you seem to be the most disappointed.
I worked for a company for 2 different stints, about 5 years each, and I managed over 40 different stores just because of the position that I was in. So it was my life. I was the Blockbuster guy. That's how most people knew me back then. The show is not Blockbuster. Like you said, they tried to take what should have been a period piece and drop it into modern times. They even brought about the end of Blockbuster now, and that's not how it happened. It happened years ago.
Yeah.
If you take away the aspect of it being Blockbuster, it's got a good cast. The writing wasn't great, but most romantic comedies on TV aren't when they first start out. So I took it with a grain of salt. I watched all 10 episodes. And if I didn't think about the fact that it was trying to be a Blockbuster show, I didn't hate it completely. But once you add in the fact that it's supposed to be a Blockbuster show, literally, then yeah, it was absolutely terrible. They got almost everything wrong except for the set. like Adam said, the set was great. I loved seeing the old shelving, and I'm from back in the days before the wire shelves and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I did a lot of those conversions.
Yep.
Oh, those old wooden shelves were a mess. But we had good times back then. The show, yeah, they should have rebranded that as something else. And like you said, Gerald, it's just haha, we won kind of a thing.
It seems like it to me.
Is really what it boils down to.
It screams it. It actually screams it, and it just seemed like it was rushed together. Just something like that they could do it. They had some momentum coming off the documentary that they actually showcased last year, based on the actual real last blockbuster that's available, and they felt like they could go ahead and work off that momentum from it. I just thought it was disappointing. I've already mentioned, about how I thought a series would be worked out if Netflix had asked me and how I would have done it. But that's just me from an outsider's perspective, but also someone who served several terms as a general manager and as a store manager for several different retail outlets, notably Ward's, which suffered the same fate as Blockbuster, which is now pretty much a ghost of an entity in and of itself. In fact, actually, my wife was surprised the other day when I got a package from my sister from Montgomery Ward's, and she's like, "That's still around?" And I said,
they still have the catalogs.
They still have, but it's only online right now as far as the entity, and that's the way it will stay. But I wanted to ask your thoughts on this. Let's say Netflix goes and calls you and Adam into a room and say, not from your trouble, just wanted your advice as far as advisors on how they should go ahead and proceed with a blockbuster show. How would you have structured it as far as a blockbuster show is concerned?
I probably still would have done like the store part of it. That would have been the main focus, but more of the operations. I used to have my CSRs pitted against each other to see who could return tapes the fastest correctly, and who could carry the most without dropping them. And you gained points for being successful. You lose points for dropping them and making a mess and spending 10 minutes trying to re-alphabetize and carry them the rest of the way around the store. But ultimately, I had to show them all up because I was the boss. So little things like that, maybe some of the backroom stuff that went on, the supply rooms and stuff like that. Some of the stores that I worked at, one of my favorite stores, my first store, actually, my office was on the second floor of the building. It was a very narrow city building, and my office was upstairs, and I also had a basement. So it was a large space, but the store was tiny. But we did so much business. And showing things like you come in on a Wednesday, because new releases came out on Tuesday. You come in on a Wednesday, and the Dropbox has exploded, and there's tapes all across the floor, or CDs or whatever, all across the floor, and the first person in is like, "Oh my God, no, I don't feel like doing this."
And especially if you can think back, remember to the late fee call lists that we used to have printed out. And one thing that I think the store got, they made a fantastic improvement on what Blockbuster was, and I think Roger will attest to this as well, is back in the day, I would have given my left arm for Randall Park's office.
Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic office. All the stores I worked in never had an office like that.
No, nothing remotely close. But like you said, doing the day-to-day operational things, I mean, you could easily put together an episode about inventory.
But what type of time frame would you guys structure it in? Where would you set it? Would you set it in now or in the past?
No, I would have
Oh,
done
no, it would definitely be period. Yeah.
Yeah, you really got to scratch that nostalgia bone. And again, I think that's what the show did right, but they didn't scratch it enough. It's kind of like it hit the funny bone. It hurts, but you kind of want to laugh, but it's too painful. So I think if you put it back into the period piece, I think it would make a lot of people remember how much fun they had. What it was like to go into a Blockbuster.
I mean, we used to have a helium tank in my store, and we blew up balloons and put them on strings and had them on the end caps. And when people came in, their kids could have a free balloon on Friday nights and Saturday nights.
Yeah.
Kids look forward to that. I used to give out popcorn in my stores. Just pop a couple bags just to get that theater smell, get people in the mood for the movies, and then just give them out little Dixie cups of popcorn just to get them going. Boosted sales like you wouldn't believe. Just little tiny things like that. And if I were going to do a show, I would probably add in some of the special events that we used to do. The in-store stuff, like like I say, we had balloons and stuff like that when certain movies came out. Oh my God, were you working when Titanic came out, Adam?
Those double tapes were so bad.
Yes, I was working in the tiny little store that I was telling you about, and I got 200 copies of Titanic, 2 VHS cassettes each, and they were not rubber banded together when they came into us. So we had to open up every case and put these rubber bands on to connect them. It was a mess.
And the conversations you would have with your employees or your coworkers, depending on what position you were at, that's going to take a few guys quite a while to take care of. And the way you're interrupted or need to help customers during that time frame, it could have led to a lot of really interesting human interaction opportunities. And I just don't think that they really showed what it was like for a person to go into a Blockbuster and shop it, or what it was like to work there. My 26-year-old son remembers as a kid going into Blockbuster, but he could have conversations with my 16-year-old, and he doesn't have any idea what he's talking about, how different it was for him as an experience.
Yeah, inventories were fun. I was an inventory specialist. I ran a special inventory team in the Mid-Atlantic. And like you said, some of the conversations and the things, I watched so much anime during inventory because I usually would take the high school kids that I hired and have them do inventory with me because they were all happy to stay awake all night. And I would put on the anime for them. And they absolutely loved it, and we would get inventory done in like 2 or 3 hours, depending on the store.
For us, it was the Beavis and Butthead collection. It was Syphil and Ollie tapes. Anything that we could put on that was really good comedy was going to happen on inventory night.
Yeah,
and so people would be excited too. I worked in larger stores, so we would start preparing for inventory an hour before we closed, and as soon as that door was locked, it's go time because we're going to be here for about 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah. And they didn't touch on something like that, but inventory in Blockbuster, you literally hand scanned every item in the store, every single rental movie, all of the sales stuff, all of the candy, everything got scanned by hand. So we ran all these 200-foot long cords out through the stores, and oh my God.
And there was always the broken one.
Yep.
You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos. You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos.
So I ask you guys this now as we close this great conversation out. Once again, I'm with Adam Smith and Roger Hamilton. Guys, you can check out each and every Monday on Facebook on the Pop Culture Cosmos right there for you for the Demolition Force that Roger runs each and every Monday. Adam is a great player involved in. Who knows? I even show up every now and then when I can right there at the Demolition Force. I got to get my hair going here. But before we head on out, wanted to go ahead and hear some great memories from you guys. If there was one memory that you would love to take as an episode, if you said Netflix, okay, if you're not going to take a whole idea on a series, but take one idea for an episode, I'll start off with you, Adam. One idea, one incident, one thing, or one event that happened to me that was just so wild, so wacky, so crazy, so out there that only a Blockbuster show could take care of it. What would that be?
Wow, that is a question and a half. Not necessarily wild or wacky, but something that I think every Blockbuster store manager or employee would certainly relate to and really kind of can show what it was like to be there. They came really close in one of their first episodes where they had the customer talking to a person recommending a movie. But every store had that one guy who would come in every night and he would sit there and put his elbow on the counter and you were his buddy for the next 20 minutes so he can talk about the movies that are coming out, that when's this coming out? What is a great movie to watch for this? But he would go back and forth constantly. And sure enough, he would leave with 3 or 4 movies, and a night or two later, he comes back and goes, okay, what's next? So I think if they were to really kind of build in on that aspect of it, that customer can be hilarious, frightening, good to see him and happier to see him go all at the same time. And it's really interesting. Again, I think when it comes to these type of shows, that they really highlight what it truly is to be in the location. And for me, that's the customer and the person that interacts with them.
Roger, anything juicy?
Well, just to add on one little thing to what Adam said, there's also the customer that comes in. I'm looking for a movie. It's got an actor. He's got a face. You know, the one with the eyes? And he talks. And he had hair in this other movie. And then he had teeth. But, you know, it was that one. It came out back then. And you're supposed to figure out what all of that means and try and figure out their movie for him. But if I were going to make an episode, I would have to do it not about the store. As funny as that might seem, it's sort of a behind the scenes type of thing that even the employees didn't get to participate in. And that is what we called FAME, the fourth quarter annual managers extravaganza, where all the managers got together at some location. And one of my favorite times, we were in Atlantic City at the Tropicana. So there was several hundred managers there. It was the first year that John Antioco took over. So I actually had breakfast with him that morning. But that was the same year that Men in Black and My Best Friend's Wedding came out. And that was the themes of the parties they had at that night. Also, Ally McBeal was out, and they had that dancing baby thing. My regional manager had the entire ballroom doing the dancing baby dance that night. There was quite a bit of alcohol involved.
Oh, I would imagine so.
It was such a fun time. That was my first time going to Atlantic City, and we had such a great time because they had parties every night. We were there for like 3 days, and it was so much fun. They did that every year for, oh my God knows how long. One of the ones that I missed was when they came to Vegas. I wasn't working for the company that year when they came to Vegas, so I missed out on that.
Oh man.
I made up for it over the last 10 years, so it's okay.
But overall, you guys have good memories of your time with Blockbuster. It's something that you look favorably upon, you know, now that you look on it, now that you're in the rearview mirror on that.
Yep. Good times and bad times.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we both got horror stories as well. But,
well, that's just retail. We'll take it from one who knows. That's just managing retail.
Well, yeah. I've managed quite a few retail stores myself. But yeah, it's Blockbuster holds a special place in my heart. It's by far my favorite job I've had over the years.
The guy that hired me, goodness, so yeah, we're going back 23 years. We are still great friends. We still get together. We live all the way across the country. Whenever we're even remotely close to each other, we make sure to get together. We talk on the phone all the time still. So I've definitely made lifelong friends, from the experience. And it's always good to see people that you worked with and you hired and you helped train, to learn kind of what they ended up doing in their life as well. So all the employees I worked with back then, I'm still in contact with more than a few of them, but it's just something about the place. You go through, I guess the hell of retail together, and you come out on the other side. But it was a really good memory. I don't miss the 90-hour work weeks that would spring up every now and then, but definitely a good memory.
Well, I will say this. It's been great talking to you both. It is Blockbuster. It's available now on Netflix. So you can go ahead and catch the 10 episodes, although it really is a tough watch.
At least they're half-hour episodes, though.
Yeah, half hours. You're right. Yeah, 25, 30 minutes on that. And that's the best thing about it. No commercials, obviously, unless you have the ad tier, and that's something that Netflix recently added in there. But Before we head on out, just wanted to ask your final thoughts on Blockbuster. We all have not the greatest of opinions on it. Actually, Roger, you were the most kind on it. But, Netflix, the one area that they've not been able to evolve, even though they now have amassed 220 million subscribers, they obviously have won in the battle between them and Blockbuster, is the fact they've not been able to create a constant sitcom or, something outside of a live comedy that they do that has really been able to generate with an audience. Obviously, we've seen successes on broadcast television with sitcoms being the anchor for so much of what they do. That has yet to really happen with Netflix. So your guys' thoughts on if they will try to extend this for season 2 and if they'll ever be able to go ahead and get that magic from having a sitcom anchor some of the stuff that they do at Netflix.
I'm not really sure. That's going to go into the trends of the younger generation and how they absorb content and media. I think what networks did is something that all of us definitely grew up with, but they created that need for a event to look forward to. There's enough time in between the show that you could watch an episode, and if it wasn't great, by next week, you forgot about that episode, let's go on to the next one. And while I absolutely adore and love the ability to be able to binge a show, that's my preferred way. I hate waiting for things like that now. But I think that having that format really does help to anchor, what the network stations were able to do. As far as Netflix being able to catch that magic, I think on some things they have an opportunity to.
Well, I mean, they have some things like Stranger Things, Cobra Kai, also The Watcher, and also recently the Dahmer story. Those have resonated with audiences. Squid Games, they're able to create event television from dramas and even, I guess if you could say, a dramedy like Cobra Kai is, but never really a true 30-minute sitcom. They've had several attempts and none have yet resonated with a large audience.
They haven't found their friends yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except when they had friends on the platform.
Well, yeah. But as far as them creating content, they haven't found that magic. I mean, that's something like Friends is so hard to find. I mean, you look at like Friends, Big Bang Theory, and then you go back and MASH, Barney Miller, some of the stuff that us old guys remember. But it shows that like the family would sit down and watch, and it was a bonding kind of a thing. At least in my family, it was. And even if we were staying at a friend or family's house or something like that, we all still sat around the TV and watched that show when it came on. And people don't do that now. And like Adam was saying, the younger generation, they've kind of been trained now that their content and their attention span is just so short. It's the TikTok generation. So they want everything in 3-minute bites. If you can't tell an entire story in 3 minutes, you've lost them. That's why it still surprises me that some of the Marvel movies and stuff like that, as long as they do so well. Because
as event, it's got to go to event pieces.
Yeah, you've got to hold their attention. That's I'm really anxious to see what happens when the new Avatar comes out. Because when the original one came out, I saw it in the theater 7 different times.
Okay, all right. I do not share your enthusiasm for that movie outside of Stephen Lang's brilliant performance.
Well, it wasn't because I wanted to go see it 7 times. I had to take different children at different times to go see it all these different times.
Then I sympathize with you, my friend, on that. Then absolutely. So yes, I had to do the same thing when I went through the ride at Disney and heard nothing but sounds of Avatar standing in line for 3 hours. So I know as to speak on that. But Avatar 2, The Way of Water, we'll see what happens there. James Cameron has been on record as saying if it does not go as far as financially with the next 2 films the way he wants it to go or the way he expects it to go or the way Disney hopes it goes, then we will not be seeing Avatar 4, 5, 6, 23 or whatever. So we'll see what happens there. It's all based off that. And I agree with you. Can Avatar regain the cultural footprint. We'll wait and see. But it is Blockbuster. It is now available on Netflix. Watch at your own risk. I don't think it'll get a season 2. I think this was the vanity plate that I think that they just wanted to have just to say that they won. And I think that's good enough for them. I do hope that they'll revisit Blockbuster, or somebody will revisit Blockbuster in a different tale and a different way of storytelling to actually, tell it the way it should be told as far as the rise and fall of Blockbuster. I think that would be a more compelling watch. And I think these guys agree as well. That would probably be either from their standpoint or maybe from both a behind the scenes and in front of, as far as the actual big box itself, if it's correlating that would be a much more compelling watch than what we're seeing right now. But if you have thoughts out there on Blockbuster on Netflix and you actually like it or don't like it, please let us know. Or if you have any great Blockbuster memories I can share with these guys on Mondays as part of the Demolition Force, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, guys, it's been great having you on. Any last thoughts before we head on out? Adam, Roger?
Nope, I'm all set. I think we covered every base we could think of.
Just trying to figure out a way to mess with Roger on Monday?
Always.
Okay, fair enough.
As long as I can stream it.
No problem. Well, I'm just glad and just very grateful anytime that anybody goes ahead and streams their RPG games on our platform. It is truly appreciated. It helps make us one of the top entities for tabletop RPG out there on Facebook and Meta. So I am indebted to you guys for being a part of the great Monday action right there at Demolition Force. And of course, I'm indebted to you both for taking the time today to speak to me about your memories of Blockbuster and the Blockbuster series right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos. Don't touch that dial. Wait, do people still use dials?
Well, thanks so much to Adam Smith and also as well Roger Hamilton for stopping by on the program. Before we head on out, my friend, wanted to hear your thoughts on Netflix making an announcement on Gears of War on the same day, N7 day for Mass Effect. But your thoughts on Gears of War not only announcing for a movie in the Gears of War world, a live action movie on Netflix, but an animated series as well.
Come on! As you go ahead and try and get the gun to work.
That was good. That was good.
I've been practicing that ever since N7 all day. But your thoughts on this?
I'm excited. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. I'm excited that Netflix is taking chances again, and taking chances on a property that really has been kind of in a state of limbo for a while. I mean, yes, we got Gears of War 4, we got Gears 5, but the excitement, the hype for it hasn't been the same since Gears of War 3. Once Gears of War 3 closed out that trilogy, it hasn't carried the same level of excitement. Almost very similar to.
Well, I will say Gears of War 2 did come out on November the 7th, so you could technically say it was their day. You could technically say it was their day first before N7.
No, I refuse. Okay. It is forever known as N7 Day for a reason. Okay. But anyways, I digress. So because it's been a series and a franchise that's been kind of stagnant over the last few 4 or 5 years, it's exciting to see Netflix take a chance on it. And I say that because, Netflix obviously has a good working relationship with video game / story adaptations. I'm looking at The Witcher. But The Witcher was hot when it happened, right? The Witcher 3 is still one of the most popular games to date, still rounding out many people's top 10 list of favorite games of all time, my own included. So in saying that, they took a quote unquote chance, but it was a pretty calculated risk, right? With Gears of War, it tends to lean more towards the risk of calculated risk versus the calculation, just because it's been such a stagnant series as of late. For them to want to take it and actually make it good, they're taking some risks, and I can appreciate that. Now, here's where my concern begins, if you can call it concern. We've already seen Batista in the Zack Snyder film for Netflix, and that was fun, but I don't want that same Batista if Batista's even becomes involved, because I know he's pining for the role, but nothing's ever been announced, nothing's been said, nothing's been officially made as far as him. All I've heard is that they said, "Do not get Chris Pine," which I'm okay with too.
Chris
Let's
Pratt.
leave Chris Pratt. I'm sorry, Chris Pratt,
Yeah.
not Pine. Chris Pratt. Let's leave Chris Pratt out of it. He's done enough right now. He's got enough going on. He can go stay in Jurassic World and the Mushroom Kingdom
He's
and all
not
that good
buff
stuff.
enough. He is not buff enough.
But do you really have to be buff to do that? Do
Come on, you can't make 5 video games with the guys looking all roided up, and you can't tell me that they're not going to go ahead and make.
I guess so. I guess
That's what I was telling you. If you want to go ahead and try and audition for one of the roles, man, you got to go ahead.
Well, I'm okay for. I'm okay with that. I can put on about another 10, 15 pounds.
Okay,
But
yeah.
anyways, point being is that what I don't want to see them do is try to take it into the direction that they're doing with the Zack Snyder film and let these characters be lean more towards the kind of goofy aesthetic of it. I want them to approach this project with the same gravitas that they did with The Witcher. I want them to approach this project with the same emotional intensity that the first 3 games gave us. I mean, when Dom found his wife after all that time, and then the visual of him seeing her as this beautiful person faded away into the corpse that she truly was, that was an emotional moment for me. Not an emotional like from the standpoint I was crying, but emotional from the standpoint of this guy has been hell-bent on finding his wife since we've met him. And he finally has this moment, this elation in finding her, to see that she is just a shell, a corpse of who she was, and that it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see that play out. So those same emotions, it's going to be very hard to bottle that up and strike lightning twice, right? It's going to be hard once you've already experienced that to re-experience it and get the same level of feeling that you did the first time. It's almost going to be impossible. But I'm encouraged that they want to try. I just want them to make sure that they give it the same gravitas that it deserves. There are some true Gears of War fans out there. And you're going to be doing them a disservice. You're going to be doing the franchise a disservice if you don't treat it the way it needs to be treated. So I implore Netflix, I implore you, make sure you know the content. Make sure you know the lore, the history, the characters that you are becoming involved with, and actually take those to heart. And don't allow them to just be a character that you're writing a show for and that happens to fit the mold. Write the show for these characters. Write the show for this world. Give us the show that we expect to see when we think of Gears of War. We expect guns. We expect, burly guys in armor saying, "Come on." We expect all of that.
Come on!
Right? Come on.
Come on!
I haven't been working on that all day, so it's not as good as yours.
I've been practicing for a few days.
My point
in anticipation of the show.
There are certain things that we expect, and I pray that Netflix recognizes those expectations and meets and exceeds those expectations. But as long as you stick to what the format is and the formula is, I think they're going to be good. And as far as Batista's concerned, look, I think it'd be great if you have Batista in this show. I think it'd be great if you have, but I don't think he needs to be Marcus Phoenix. I think he needs to be his own character. I think I don't have a problem with them bringing in an original character to the show to add to it. I don't think he's Marcus Phoenix. I don't think he's Marcus Phoenix, man. I think you give him a different person, create a character for him. I don't think you make him Marcus Phoenix. I just don't. I don't get Marcus Phoenix from him, man. I just don't get it.
Come on.
He doesn't do it well enough. Whoever the voice actor was that played Marcus Phoenix, he gives it a certain gravitas that Batista cannot match. He can't be that surly. I don't get it. It's almost like you think about, and you pay respect to people who have done iconic voices. Obviously, we just lost Kevin Conroy a couple of days ago, and our hearts go out to the family and the so many friends and the so many moments. I know personally, I didn't shed a tear from the standpoint of I didn't know him personally. He narrated so many things that I grew up with, the Batman the Animated Series, Justice League, the Injustice games, the Arkham games, so many things that I've been exposed to that he's voiced. His work is right up there as far as I'm concerned with Jennifer Hale. Jennifer Hale is another voice actor who has done so much work that I have leaned towards growing up that I can recognize their voice instantly. My point in saying that is this. When they do something so well, it's very, very hard for somebody else to come behind them and do the same thing. There have been other voices for Batman. We've had Bruce Greenwood try his hand out of Batman. We've had a lot of other people try their hand in voicing Batman, but it doesn't ever come close to Kevin Conroy. So when you hear a voice, you hear a character, you feel that emotion from that character. Unless the person that you're bringing in comes close to matching that same intensity as far as their voice acting, it kind of pulls you out of it. So Batista, being a former professional wrestler, being now a bona fide actor in Hollywood, I have yet to hear him in a way that makes me think, that could be Marcus Phoenix. I would probably put him more as Dom. If I had a choice, I would make him Dom. I don't know if I'd make him Marcus Phoenix.
I was going to say
that would give you. Go ahead.
I was going to say Cena would be a good Dom.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he would be a good Dom, because it would give him a chance to show some acting range, right? We've seen him in it was Blade Runner he was in. We've seen him in some other acting roles where he's not just this huge hulking mass of flesh that is pounding everybody into a pulp, where we've seen him try to kind of break out. And I think a role like Dom would be perfect for him because he can still be the tough Batista that we've come to know, the Drax the Destroyer, the animal from WWE days. He can still be that person, but he can show vulnerability. He can show a soft side. He can show that he's a man that's dealing with his own insecurities, his own frustrations, his own fears. I think that's important. With Marcus Phoenix, he was kind of a one-dimensional character. He was very forward-thinking, very, get on with the mission, very, very just forward, just go, 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 one foot in front of the other. And he didn't have the nuances that we would come to expect from a big actor. So in Batista, I think he deserves a role more fitting of who he is capable of becoming. And I think Dom fits him better. I really do.
And before we hand it out, my friend, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your thoughts on season 1 of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon.
How much time do we have left? I don't know.
About
we might need a whole show.
I know.
See, that's not enough time, man. We might need a whole show for this. But listen, I was already on the fence prior to House of the Dragon about this series. I didn't know how I was going to feel returning to the world of Westeros, and diving back into these characters, but then doing so in the prequel format, going back into the history of the Targaryen dynasty, that was the greatest dynasty that the Seven Kingdoms had ever seen. Saying that to say, House of the Dragon, by and large, exceeded my expectations. As far as visually striking film, obviously there were still some things that they did that I scratched my head at. I don't know why they feel like it's so important to film these dark scenes that we can barely see unless you turn up the brightness on your television all the way. That's infuriating, actually. But besides those type of things, and there's some pacing issues that kind of happen with the first season of any show that's trying to set up a big plot line. I'm encouraged. The characters, I think the casting was spot on. I know a lot of people were concerned about the time jumps and the aging up of characters. I think it was a great thing that they did. The actors and actresses that they used resembled the kid actors and actresses, and it looked visually like it made sense. It wasn't like this jarring jump where you have this person that looks one way and looks completely different as an adult. They got people that look like they could be cousins or could be related or could be siblings. So I thought that was very, very well done. I thought the action beats were great. Just seeing the Targaryens and their prowess for fighting, watching Daemon Targaryen go up against the Sand King, the Crab King, or whatever. I think it was the Sand King, Crab King. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But to see his ability to fight, it harkens back to how we look at Jon Snow and his ability to fight throughout the series of Game of Thrones, and how each one of the penultimate season episodes involved a fight with Jon Snow, from Hardhome to the Battle of the Bastards to the Battle of Winterfell, the Battle for Winterfell. There were just so many moments where you got to see Jon Snow, aka Aegon Targaryen, just lose it, right? And go Targaryen nuts, right? Berserker rage almost. So it's great to kind of see that is still a thing, and that we got to see Daemon Targaryen kind of do the same thing. And there's not enough that can be said about Paddy Constantine's performance as Viserys Targaryen. He was so good in that role, so good in his nuances and the way he portrayed that character, and to the point where, again, as we talked about before, George R.R. Martin had called him and said, "Bro, that you did it better than what I had even written on the page." So you got so many great performances. I think if there were anything that would make me go, God, again, it's just little things like the final episode where they send the young Targaryen to go be this message bringer and demand that they bend the knee to his mom as the true rightful queen of the Seven Kingdoms, knowing that these are dangerous times that they're in, knowing that those are the type of things you can just send a raven. You don't need to go send one of your children who are betrothed to be married and are potentially destined to be a king once you pass on. You don't send them as a messenger. Like, there are certain things that it just, as a parent, I know I wouldn't do. And especially in the perilous times that they were in, I'm not sending my kid to deliver that message, because that's a pawn. That's a move right there. So now that's a piece that I'm putting on the board unnecessarily, and I'm putting them in harm's way unnecessarily. I think any parent that knows better would not have put their child in that situation. Again, I get the fact that this is done to tell a story, right? They're in the process of telling how this battle of the Dance of the Dragons starts, and in starting the Dance of the Dragons the way that they did, based off an accident, which is what it was. When he was killed, it was not intended for it to be so. He was really trying to scare him. Ultimately, he lost control of his dragon, and his dragon decided that he was going to be killed. So I'm interested to see. I can't wait for next season, and I know we're going to be waiting for a while for next season. I'm encouraged that George R.R. Martin has confirmed that it is going to be 7 seasons, 10 episodes this season. He has said that is what we need to tell House of the Dragon correctly. I hope that they make the decision to kind of film those seasons as quickly as possible and not wait a year between seasons to do so, because I'll be mid-40s by the time the series is done.
Yeah.
And I don't want to think that I'll be mid-40s by the time I'm done watching House of the Dragon. I want it to be sooner. I don't want to wait that long. That's just me being selfish. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's how I feel. But I absolutely love the series. If I had a chance to rate it out of 10, it would probably be a 9, maybe an 8.75. Between 8.75 and a 9. I really, really enjoyed the series. Do I think it was better than the first series of Game of Thrones? That's tough. You're working with a different budget. You're working with people who have already established history in knowing that in Game of Thrones, as opposed to you telling the story for the first time to people who are not familiar with A Song of Ice and Fire. Now people are familiar with The Song of Ice and Fire. They're familiar with George R.R. Martin and his work. And now you're going back and telling stories that were previously untold stories as far as visually, but it's already an established world. So it's different. I still think I give the nod to the first Game of Thrones, the Game of Thrones original series. But House of the Dragon was a fantastic follow-up to what was a very disappointing season 8 of Game of Thrones. It's pretty much wiped the taste of it from my mouth as far as I'm concerned. I think it was great, and I cannot wait for season 2.
Great thoughts right there, my friend. Truly appreciate it. So for TJ Johnson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great
You're listening to a Weeby Geeks Network podcast.
Tangent Bound Network. Let your voice be heard. TangentBoundNetwork.com.
Thanks so much for downloading the Pop Culture Cosmos, and stay tuned as more great podcasts are on the way. Thanks again for listening to us here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.